public comment portion of a Board of Commissioners meeting is an opportunity for persons wishing to appear before the board to do so. Citizen speakers will be acknowledged in the order in which they signed up to speak and will address all comments to the board as a whole and not one individual commissioner. Speakers will address the board from the speaker's podium at the front of the room and will begin their remarks by stating their name and address. Discussions between speakers and members of the audience will not be allowed. Public comment is not intended to require the board to answer any impromptu questions. Speakers are expected to be civil in their language and presentation and are prohibited from using profanity or making threats of violence or personal attacks against any person. All comments from the speakers shall be issue-oriented and directly related to a subject that the county commissioners have oversight and authority. Each speaker is allotted 3 minutes to address the board. A speaker is not permitted to share, reserve, or relinquish any remaining time allocated to them to another speaker. Any comments where the primary purpose is to promote a business or candidacy shall not be allowed.
All right, thank you. We have one tonight. So the first citizen is Cynthia Stewart.
Anitra.
Hi, how y'all doing?
Hey there, how are you?
I'm doing pretty okay. Let me see. I'm gonna take that out so I won't be going against no rules. Okay, good evening, everyone. My name is Sinitra Stewart, and I appreciate the opportunity to speak on a few initiatives and concerns impacting families and communities throughout Cleveland County. Over the past year, I have joined together with a group of dedicated women in our community to begin discussing and planning real solutions surrounding homelessness, the rising cost of housing, and the lack of affordable options for working families, seniors, veterans, and vulnerable individuals. Our vision includes developing tiny home communities and affordable housing initiatives that provide not just shelter, but dignity, stability, and pathways towards long-term sufficiency. We also recognize another growing concern across our county: littering and environmental neglect. And I take this to heart because I'm tired of the litter. I hear. But anyway, where I lost my place. Hold on. Clean communities create safer, healthier, and more welcoming environments for families, businesses, and future economic growth. Community pride matters, and we must continue working together to improve the appearance and care of our neighborhoods. In addition, as a cybersecurity professional and community advocate, I see a major digital divide affecting underserved and non-tech savvy populations. Many seniors, small business owners, veterans, and low-income residents are vulnerable to scams, cyber crimes, identity theft, and online exploitation simply because they lack access to education and protection resources. Cybersecurity is no longer a luxury. It is a necessity tied directly to economic stability and public safety. I also want to respectfully acknowledge the moral and economic barriers many BIPOC business owners continue to face when trying to participate in economic development opportunities within our county. Equity and access, visibility, funding, partnerships, and development opportunity is critical if we truly want inclusive growth throughout Cleveland County. I currently have a strategic vision that addresses these issues collectively through workforce development, affordable housing, I'm almost finished, cybersecurity, education, community partnerships, and innovation initiatives. I will welcome the opportunity to collaborate with our economic development leaders, local officials, nonprofits, community stakeholders to explore community development block grant opportunities and other sustainable funding solutions that can create measurable impact for the people who need it most. I believe Cleveland County has the potential to become a model for passionate, inclusive, and forward-thinking community development but it requires collaboration, transparency, and intentional investment in all our people. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Okay, next item on the agenda is the consent agenda. We all been provided the information in our packets, and you've had opportunity to review the items. So with that, is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All right, hearing none, all in favor will say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? That motion also carries unanimous. Next item is a public hearing. Madam Clerk?
After the public hearing has been opened, citizen speakers will be acknowledged in the order in which they signed up to speak and will address all comments to the board as a whole and not one individual commissioner. Speakers will address the board from the speaker's podium at the front of the room and will begin the remarks by stating their name and address. Discussions between speakers and members of the audience will not be allowed. A public hearing is not intended to require the board to answer any impromptu questions. Speakers are expected to be civil in their language and presentation. All comments from the speaker shall be directly related to the subject of the public hearing. Each speaker is allotted 5 minutes to address the board. A speaker is not permitted to share, reserve, or relinquish any remaining time allocated to them to another speaker.
All right, so we have one public hearing tonight. This is for Project Champion, which is a named economic development incentive proposal. At the time, I recognize Courtney Ashley, Economic Development Director.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for the opportunity to share information about Project Champion with you tonight. So Project Champion represents a manufacturing company who is considering a new operation in Cleveland County. They're also considering 2 other locations in North Carolina, as well as 1 in South Carolina and 1 in Tennessee. They intend to create 101 new jobs with an average wage of $51,381. They're planning to make an investment of about $28 million in capital investment over 3 years. So we recommend supporting this project through the following: local incentive grant for 3 years of 25% of the current tax rate. So over 3 years, as they create 101 new jobs, make this investment of $28 million, their grant would come to an amount of about $68,850. So after the public hearing, we ask the board to either adopt or deny the resolution authorizing the Economic Development Initiative.
Okay, is there any questions from the board? All right, well, this will go fairly quick because the public hearing is now open, but nobody signed up to speak for the public hearing. So with that, is there anybody who would like to speak that didn't have an opportunity? Ma'am?
About the project, Champion.
Yes.
That's I think it's a very good initiative. At the same time, I really support this. I think, but my question is, I see a couple companies on here that's already been given dollars and things like that. So what about new companies? That would be my.
So those are just pictures on the slide. This is a new company.
Oh,
Anything else? All right, anyone else? All right, seeing none, the public hearing is now closed. So back to the board to deliberate. Any final questions or comments? All right, if there are none.
I would certainly be in favor of, increasing the tax base and having 100 jobs in excess of $50,000 salary. So are you ready for a motion?
If we have no further questions, then yes, our motion's in order.
I'll make a motion that we approve.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? All right, hearing none, all in favor will say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? All right, that motion carries unanimous. Thank you, Courtney. All right, next item is regular agenda item. So this is, I'll recognize David Cotton, County Manager. This is a response to the FY25 audit. David?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners. The North Carolina Treasurer's Office, through the Local Government Commission, requires local governments with financial performance indicators of concern to present a response with corrected measures within 60 days of the audit being presented to the Board of Commissioners, which is where we find ourselves this evening. There were 3 that rose to the level of being financial performance indicators of concern. The first is related to GASB Statement 87, which is the Governmental Accounting Standards Board Statement 87. And that one is simply how we record lease payments for vehicles. We did properly record the amounts, but we book those to the individual departments rather than debt service. So that particular finding has been corrected. All future lease payments will be properly and correctly recorded within our debt service division, as well as any qualifying software subscriptions. Currently, we do not have any of those, but that's also one of the standards for GASB 87. The 2 that are intrinsically linked to one another are the late submission of the audit and the reconciliation of funds. As we now know, the audit was late by approximately a month, and the direct cause was reconciliation of our accounts. We have 31 individual accounts, and we, as a county, we were late at getting all of the information requested by our independent auditor so that they could finalize our audit and get that submitted to the local government commission. And it does require a response. So the county finance staff, they've taken measures to bring all 31 accounts current. Not all accounts are current just yet, but the vast majority are. We have gone to daily reconciliations as well as monthly reconciliations. Also want to specifically call out the current business officer, Tanya Britton, current business officer with the Sheriff's Office. She graciously agreed to come over and help the finance staff to bring our bank accounts current. We also engaged an independent consultant through the North Carolina Association of County Commissioners to review, analyze, and develop recommendations for improving our processes and really drilling down and identifying the approximate and direct reasons for the audit being late and for not having all of our accounts reconciled. And some of the outcomes that have been vetted, the plan was presented to our independent auditor, and the plan that I presented passed their review, and optimistic that it will pass LGC's review as well. So just some highlights of that moving forward. The finance staff will prepare and distribute a monthly financial report to the commissioners. And from an auditing standpoint, the finance staff will present at a commissioners meeting a quarterly audit status update, and the first one will be this May. So our second meeting this month will give you an audit status update. And there's several other moving parts within that, some coordination, some reporting out to the commissioners and through county administration to have more direct oversight over the finance staff so that this does not occur in the future. And we are in compliance within the 60 days, and the only other thing would be if the board does agree with the plan proposed to approve that, and then we'll submit it to the local government commission.
What questions might the board have?
I might have one, David. How many accounts do we have that are not balanced at this time?
Well, that are not reconciled, we have 3 out of 31. Yes, sir. And they are 2 are 1 month behind, and the other one is closing in on a month behind. Yes, sir.
Anyone else?
I think we were all very disappointed to find out we had this problem, but, we're grateful that, staff has jumped on it and, taken care of it in a timely fashion.
Can I ask, are we like out of the woods, or what could be the consequences, or or what could have been the consequences?
Uh, worst case scenario would have been, placed on the unit list with the local government commission, which just has more direct oversight, especially when you go to issue debt. I don't foresee Cleveland
U-
County.
UAL.
Yes, UAL. I don't foresee Cleveland County being on that list. This is a first time occurrence for us. We've addressed it. I think we have a really strong response and staff to have that follow through. So I think to answer your question, I think we're out of the woods.
Okay.
So I'd like to make a few comments. One, so the audit was a month and a few days late from the February 12th debt extension.
Yes, sir.
So that everybody fully understands, that extension was in place because of the federal shutdown. So the true deadline is December 31st.
Correct.
So this next year, barring any extension from the county, the state, so the true deadline is the end of the year. Okay, so technically we're a little more than a month behind.
Right.
So we were almost 3 months behind. Also, glad to hear that there's going to be a which the board has asked for, is the quarterly meeting, because ultimately the board's responsible for the audit. So the quarterly report, which will be in the public setting, so the public will see that as well and being transparent with that. Also, as David said, the board will get a monthly report.
Yes, sir.
Which we received the first one this past week. So the manager also mentioned the report that the consultant did, so I'd ask that that be released to the citizens or in the public setting as fast as it can be.
Yes.
So let me check, make sure. I think that's all I wanted to mention. All right. Anybody else have any comments? All right, so we need to approve this. So I'd ask for a motion.
So moved.
Second.
All right, is there any further discussion? All right, and David, once this is approved, if it is approved, then this needs to be signed by the board and you'll get it promptly to the treasurer's office,
Yes, sir.
which is the local government commission, right?
Yes, sir.
All right, with that, any other discussion? All right, we have a motion second to approve the audit finding response. All those in favor will say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? All right, unanimous. Yeah, let's make sure it doesn't happen again. That's unacceptable.
Yes.
All right, we have one more item tonight, and that is a board appointment. So we have a seat of a trustee at the community college board. Its term will expire later this year at the end of June. So it's time for us to reappoint or appoint someone new. So with that, I'll turn it over to the clerk.
You took my speech.
Oh, sorry about that.
So you have the
You
list
can
of
say the same thing.
you have the list of applicants in front of you. You're going to appoint one person to serve a 4-year term ending December 31st, 2030. Yeah, 2030.
2030. 2030.
2030.
Okay, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion.
Yes, sir.
I'd like to make a motion that we nominate, Dr. Lamont Littlejohn for that position.
I'll second it.
All right, any discussion? All right, here, none, all in favor will say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? All right, congratulations. If you'll let the college and Mr. Littlejohn know.
Yes, sir. I will in the morning.
All right, so before we call for the adjournment, does any commissioner have anything they'd like to report? You guys, anything? Anybody? All right, so the next meeting of Cleveland County Board of Commissioners will be held Tuesday, May 19th, 2026, here at 6 p.m. or in the Commissioner Chambers at 6 p.m. I would make a note that night is, all commissioner meetings are important, but that will be a highlight from the standpoint of it's annual budget time, and the manager will present the annual budget for this next fiscal year. So that will be the budget presentation night. So I wanted to make that point so that the citizens that are here or watching would have ample time to know that in the event they wanted to attend or pay attention to that. All right, with that, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So,
Is there a second? All right, all in favor say aye. Anyone opposed? All right, we're adjourned. Thank you, guys.